if I'm in my head and I'm feeling a bit stressed about something or anxious about something coming up, I'm like, what's one small thing I can do for myself right now? It reminds me of a saying of, everybody wants to heal, but who's willing to change? I do want to slow down. I want to find more inner peace within my life, within my partnership, within my parenting, within my occupation.
Yep.
But what are the tools to get there?
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to ALLSMITH, where we forge the mind, the body, and the soul towards peak expression. Today's guest has spent his life exploring what it truly means to live in balance. From the ski slopes of the French Alps to the surf breaks of San Diego, where I just saw you in the ocean the other day, randomly, which is super cool. His journey is a masterclass in learning how to listen to the body before it starts screaming. He's a teacher, a performance coach, and the founder of Balanced Body Wisdom, where he helps people reconnect with their physical intelligence, unwind tension, and move from pain to power. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited to introduce Stuart Champion. What's up, man?
Thanks for having me, Bryce. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, dude. I'm really excited to connect with you. You have an energy that I think is very unique, and it's peaceful. It shows that you genuinely want to help people, but also that you've been through it a little bit. And I find it very ironic that we ran into each other on the beach on Sunday, because your energy is, to me, oceanic. It's big waves, it's small waves. I mean, what are you, 6'5", 6'6"?
Mm-hmm.
You're one of the few guests that's like bigger than me. And you understand how to be big when you need to, but also how to soften. And there's something really, really special about that. So I'm excited to have you here today and peel back the layers on Stuart's story.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Where did this all start for you, man? Like, if you were to just pause and look back at your life as a kid, I think play came up when we met for the first time. And I observed that you played every sport under the sun. Where did your experience begin as far as just viewing the world a little bit differently? Because you have a depth that most people don't have.
If I could pull back the layers of me reflecting on my childhood and just being that 5, 10, 15-year-old like Stuart, growing up in central England, I really just wanted to be outside. I wanted to be on the football, soccer fields, rugby fields, in the swimming pool. I wanted to be moving. My body wanted to be in motion, like all day. And a little side piece to that is I have a twin sister. So I was born and raised and developed in a womb with a woman.
Wow.
And the story goes like I came out first, so she kind of kicked me out. And I was just like 6 weeks, we were 6 weeks premature. I was silent, not really breathing, not really. I was getting hit, like spanked as my first seconds to try and help me breathe. And I'm like not responding. And then my sister comes out kicking and screaming. So moving forward a few years into school, I just wanted to be outside. I'm sitting inside, being asked to sit still in my seat while I'm looking out the window on the grass fields, just wanting to play. So that's really where it started, was joining teams, playing with my friends before school, recess, lunchtime, after school. And football became, that piece that gave me friendship, that gave me support systems and teammates and some identity too. And so
what's interesting about that is I can very much relate. I feel like in some ways the education system is beautiful because it creates a container for the pursuit of following a curriculum. But it also makes an assumption that kids are going to sit still, they're going to follow the rules, and they're going to kind of fall in line with whatever the social construct is to learn the things. And then movement ends up being the reward. And where I think, excuse my French, but where I think that's really fucked up is that movement should be a non-negotiable. And it ingrains that into the social programming of the headspace that when you get a break, that's when you eat and that's when you move. These other things are more important. And the volume and intensity of learning is a lot higher than what you normally see out on the playground. And I think it should actually be in reverse. If you look at hunter-gatherers and primal living, like movement is first. Serving of the tribe is first. Hunter and gathering to go forage for food should be first because it's a survival mechanism. But if you want to program people and put them in a box, inevitably you're going to have them sit under artificial light for 4 to 6 hours a day. Their reward will be you can go sweat and get social interaction and eat. And then as a byproduct, people come into the world, they sit in artificial light, they're in cubicles, they put their job before any sort of movement. Movement is viewed as a luxury. It's not viewed as a necessity or a non-negotiable. And then people are addicted now to fast food because it's, let me get this quick hit so I can go back and make money, as opposed to, I have the world's most complex meat suit. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And by movement and tribal connection and quality nutrient-dense food, I'm actually going to learn more than I am in the classroom. I'm going to upgrade my operating system, and I'm going to contribute to the world better. And to be quite frank, I had no idea we'd get to this point in the conversation this fast. But it's something that really stands out to me. What's coming to mind for you when I kind of describe that social construct that is hindering our young people?
Yeah, there's several things coming up, and I'm kind of even listening to this as I'm listening to you. I'm listening as a podcast
Consumer.
recipient and consumer. Like I'm
Totally.
Am I driving in my car right now listening to this conversation? Am I laying in my bed or in a field in peace? We're typically doing multiple things at once, maybe walking and listening. So I'd just like to offer to pause for a second. And as we're talking about those things, how can we just pause for a moment and observe our current way of breathing, which is connected to our nervous system and this information we're taking in through our senses? So wherever we are, even just listening to this podcast, breathing in and be aware of your in-breath. Breathing out, being aware of your out-breath. And as we pause and slow for a moment, whatever we're doing, wherever we are, how would it feel within our systems if we pause and asked our body how it would like to take its next breath in? A little bit slower, a little bit longer, a little bit deeper. And as I'm offering that pause in this moment, I feel like part of that pause is just for me, as I landed here in this beautiful podcast studio 30 minutes ago, driving at 80 miles an hour down the freeway. And what's really coming to me as you're asking that is at 2, 3, 4 years old, I don't have kids of my own, but all of my best friends do. Really, all of my friends in England, every trip home, their kids are 2, 3, 4, 10, now 15 years old or so. And we celebrate the first crawl, the first noises, the first words, the first walk. Oh, my kid's walking. We celebrate it all. And as soon as we get into school now, it's like, hey, sit down, stop wriggling, find stillness. And the body wants to move because that's how it learns. So the roots of this practice of balanced body wisdom stems in the idea and perspective that we are now growing up in this modern lifestyle where we're asked to sit in chairs, whether it's meal times, cars, watching TV, in school for hours. Where before, you're talking ancestrally with hunter-gatherers, our body grew up in a natural environment, squatting, climbing, jumping, working on the floor. So me being 43 years old, and I know you're in your 30s, like how many people do you actually know that don't have an ankle, knee, hip, shoulder, neck, back, pelvic floor kind of imbalance? So really the roots and the stem of this practice, which took me years to find, and finding like beautiful teachers along the way to point at and show me and guide me through practices about how to actually slow down and listen to how your body's communicating to you and how it can be more deeply supported.
Mm-hmm.
So starting from those years where, you know, I worked in elementary school, middle school, and high schools for about the last 20 years. And some of my biggest teachers in life are the students that I worked with. So I'm watching 5-year-olds squat down to the floor to pick up a soccer ball, and their butt hits the floor, and they have full range of motion in their hips, knees, ankles, their spines aligned, and it's nothing. Their glutes bring them back up, their core sends them down, and their body's in quite beautiful alignment, because they've been playing on the floor. Even in kindergarten, they're on the floor a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But now we're in first, second, third grade. That range of motion starts to, just through observations, starts to tighten. And students at 8 or 9 years old come to PE class saying, hey, my back's a little bit tight today. My hip's a little funky. I played 3 soccer games yesterday and I'm exhausted. And so at what point with our connection playing high-level sports growing up, we didn't play college sports by not playing beforehand. We've always played, right? And now being in our 30s and 40s, still wanting to play and wanting that freedom in our body that we had at 5 years old or 10 years old, and our body not quite performing like we remember it used to. How do we come out of the controlling mind of like pushing, forcing, continuing, and actually slowing down to let the body lead the way?
I like that. Most people are moving through life from the neck up, right? They're trying to intellectualize their way into that next level. And in some ways that works. You start with, as you described as a young child, unconscious competence. And then over the course of time, you gain knowledge and wisdom and observational learning and experience, some good, some bad. And you think you can graduate to the level of conscious competence. If I just will myself to the bottom of this squat, I can now go ass to grass like my 2-year-old self could. Doesn't quite work that way. The body keeps a score, which we're going to unpack later. But there's something very fascinating about this concept of learning through play. And I just have to give my mom a quick shout out because she understood that about me. And I think if you have incentive, you can then predict behavior. And so like you, I didn't really want to be in the chair. I wanted to move. I wanted to play. I wanted to explore. I also wanted to learn. But I wanted to do it in a fashion where, hey, if I get these 3 mathematical equations right, I get to go shoot hoops with my mom for 2 minutes. I want to learn now. And it's interesting because in school, they give you like a grade. And then based on that grade, they give you the pat on the back or the love, or they tell you you're smart. Or if you get a bad grade, they tell you, you need to improve. I still look at it as social programming.
It's conditioning.
It's
like when we train a dog, we call it domestication. Yeah,
and like what's that famous study where you had this population, I think it was 30 kids, and they all took an exam. And they basically split the group into 15 and 15. And 15 of the kids, they told them, hey, you didn't perform very well. Like, you guys need to upgrade your operating system. We got to get back to the drawing board. Like, you guys are going to have it tough this year. These 15 over here were told, you scored really high on that exam. You guys are elite. You're the best of the best. Based on that original testing, these 15 that got the social programming that they were loved, they were appreciated, they're doing very well, all of a sudden skyrocketed the rest of the year. These 15 underperformed, lacked confidence, misbehaved. When you go back to the original testing, both sides performed almost exactly the same. It was based on the communication strategy to the person, the intrinsic belief from the instructor, the leader of the tribe. But you can see how that either positively or negatively impacts the future. And I'm trying to figure out, like, I don't want to sit on a podcast high horse and just put down our education system. But as someone that has been in that space for a while, and you observed, you participated, you said you learned more from them, What do you think is a solution to our education system? Because a part of you is like, there's value sitting in that chair and learning and being still. But why does that supersede play and optimal food? And why is the quality of food in cafeterias so poor, aside from just money?
I just need to pause with that for a moment. Yeah, I can offer my perspective, and growing up in the England education system is a bit different than then working professionally in the American education system in quite amazing schools up in Lake Oswego, Oregon, Scripps Ranch, like San Diego Unified School District, like both small and large districts. I really went into education because of some beautiful and amazing educators that I had, but also some educators that I didn't feel safe in that classroom and in that environment. And I wanted to bridge that gap and be that consistent educator for my students. And as you mentioned earlier, choosing physical education and health science as a master's was working in preventative healthcare rather than physical therapy, nurse, doctor, that route, helping people who have ailments. So when I was learning through my mentors and teachers and student teaching, I really wanted to create an environment within the classroom structure where it's not my classroom, it's ours.
Love that.
Where we have team meetings at the beginning of every class. And if the class or some students have a lot of energy, then we might run a lap or two first before our team meeting. And then how can I, particularly at the elementary level, how can I take competition and set it off to the side for a moment and allow room for collaboration, teamwork, connection, problem solving? Here's some basic elements to a big group game, but what rules or structures can the kids add and design to them? Or how can I pause during a game where the kids have time now to communicate with each other about tactics? How can I choose and support different teams so we're not having redemption matches and we're not keeping score? Like the kids in my classroom would always say, "Hey, Mr. Champion, what's the score at the end of that game?" And then another kid would be like, "It was a tie," because they just knew it was always a tie. It wasn't about the score. It's like, did we learn? Did we fail? How many times do we fail to have to get something right?
Wow.
How many free throws did you take with your mom? How many did you miss to compare to how many you made? Like the Michael Jordan story. How many buzzer beaters did he make versus how many did he miss?
Beautiful
How
said.
many shots did he take versus how many he made? And so there is this beautiful perspective when we zoom out from America and we start looking at educational systems around the world, like Denmark. Finland seems to be leading in academic success, if that's our main measure of education, is our academics. In Finland, the system is that kids play and build and create, and they go to school for 3 or 4 hours a day. And reading, writing, math, testing, that comes later, 8, 9, 10 years old. But then they're outperforming the English education system where I'm from, the American education system. So how can we actually zoom out a little bit and add, more value to an education system? Because when we suppress a nation with education, we have an obedient nation, right? So there's it feels like there's a power and control game at play where the Department of Education is part of the government. And government is there for when we can't do something individually, we can work together collectively. But then there's different perspectives. And I just like to get to a place where we're not arguing on what we disagree. Is how can we come to the table and actually say, where can we start here and with what do we agree upon? And kind of build a platform from what we agree is best for our students and best for
Stu, this is the best
education.
answer and imagery that I've ever heard to this question. I've asked hundreds of people a similar question. Collaboration over competition. Remove the social hierarchy early on. And it's interesting because we paint this picture of rags to riches. If you just work hard and outperform the next person, you're going to make the most money or do the thing. That social programming can come later. Like you said, that 8 or 9-year-old. It sounds to me that like, I'm going to have a Rogan moment here for a second. when humans get involved in animal growth and development, we just fuck it up. Let kids be animals for a little bit, where they play, they connect, they crawl, they climb, they swim, they love, they fight. They learn the skills at play. They understand tactics and use imagery as to how to be innovative and creative in the form of play. Play, as we know, is the highest form of learning. Using that ideology and having a transferable skill later on into the maths, the sciences, the reading, and then also having a healthy filtration system around historical context to know that this is the narrative told by someone. It doesn't mean like we have to believe it. It just means this is the historical reference according to this textbook or this course. And having that discernment, not necessarily being married to every little thing that you learn in school as truth, that truth then becoming identity. And then identity going back to what you just described, which is I'm right, you're wrong. Now it creates divisiveness versus, hey, we just played that game together. Wasn't that fun? Wasn't it so cool that we, tied and we were both trying really hard and you guys had this tactic and we had this tactic? Like when you play and you do hard things and you sweat and you move, you get a natural endorphin rush. Hormones are now changing. You're learning, oh, wow, that person runs really fast. Their stride is this, or their arm stroke is this. Oh, that person swims really good. I noticed they do this tactic, or they kick a little bit this way, kick a little bit that way. Through observational learning and play, like you said, it's a common area in the messy middle. Mm-hmm. And I think that's such an interesting way to look at it because it allows for so much observation rather than strong arming of, I'm smarter than you, I'm better than you, I got better grades than you, I'm taller than you. My parents drive this car, you drive that car. Whatever comparing can potentially take place in the realm of competition, it becomes that collaboration. And if you look at the world now, so many of the highest performing individuals in the world are friends. You look at the stock market and a lot of those people are connected. You look at the podcasting space, a lot of those people are friends and they're connected. At the top, people collaborate. They don't necessarily compete. At the bottom, when we start, that's where we should start the conversation. Collaboration over competition. That's a huge piece, man. It's such a beautiful observation. What I want to circle back to with you is you mentioned the word listening. Sometimes we think about listening being external. What did the teacher say? What did mom and dad say? Maybe when we're really young, we listen to the birds. We might be able to listen to things that don't necessarily land to the eye. We might hear the trees whistle, cars driving past, a revving engine, sirens maybe. We might listen to our breath. We might hear ourselves cry. And then somewhere along the lines, we stop listening inward and it all becomes external, like I just described. How do we teach humans to listen inward? Because it's easy to say, like, the body keeps the score. My right hip's telling me this. My back's telling me that. Let me self-assess and see what habits I'm playing with as to why those might be. But like truly listening, like you described, the moment you said breath, listening and feeling the breath in versus the breath out. If anybody's read the book, The Oxygen Advantage by Patrick McEwen, we breathe like 20,000 times a day. Most people, including myself, pay zero attention to that. But it's something we do more than almost anything else, except for like the people that are competing about steps in a day. They're trying to get more than 20K steps in a day. How do we get back to our breath? Work in, not just work out. And really listen to what does the body need? What does it want? How do I pay attention to that, even though there's not a monetary component to that? at least yet, maybe in the future if we don't take care of ourselves.
Yeah, there's so many beautiful tools out there. These books, for example, when you mentioned Patrick McGowan, I'm also thinking of Breath by James Nestor.
Yep.
Where he shares and talks about the human body at rest in a balanced nervous system would take about 5.5 full breaths per minute, which is equal to about 5.5 liters of air per minute. But if we're not observing and aware of our breath, and we don't practice catching ourselves, whether we're watching a scary movie and where that inhales the sympathetic nervous fight, flight, freeze, self-protection. But when something happens and we're like, oh, now that exhale is the parasympathetic, calming, restoring, healing, slowing part of the breath, the equal and opposites of our breath. So when we don't observe, we might be breathing 10 or 15 times per minute, which is a form of hyperventilation. So now our body is stuck in this sympathetic state where we're go, 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 fight, flight, freeze. I'm here right now, but I'm not focused on this conversation because I need to be here in 10 minutes and I gotta go. Nice to see you, right? So how can we learn to observe ourselves wherever we are? Like if we're driving in our vehicle, like I was on the way down here, how can I catch myself at times and just observe my current way of breathing? And how can I pause and slow and actually ask and invite my body to show me how it would like to take its next breath in? And when we start breathing in a little bit slower, longer, and deeper, we're taking in a little bit more air over a little more time. And now we have more air within us to breathe out slower, longer, and deeper. And now we're calming our nervous system and bringing the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system into balance. We don't want to be in one or the other. We want to be in balance. And this is a beautiful segue into really 3 of the major body systems that we are operating in. Is our sensory system, which perceives our environment. We were in the ocean with 20, 30 other people the other day. And people who have more experience and more time in the ocean are comfortable surfing 4 or 5 foot waves. They're probably in a quite balanced nervous system state and they're having fun. Someone else who's only surfed a couple of times are getting worked. They're breathing, they're fighting the ocean. Their body's nervous system is in a completely different state. So our sensory system perceives the environment. We could be driving, we could be in a difficult conversation in a relationship. One person feels one way, one person feels slightly different. And then that sensory system informs our nervous system. So where are we coming from? Am I being self-protective in this conversation with my parents or my partner? Or am I just observing and listening to their perspective and receiving it and supporting them? And then if you tie that into this realm of athletes and athletic performance, how our sensory system informs our nervous system. And now our nervous system, if we're in that sympathetic state, has our musculoskeletal system in fight, flight, and freeze. So now we're holding tension deep within our body. So I really think of this program too, and with working professionals, whether you're an NBA player playing half of your games away, where you're road tripping, flying, whether you're hosting podcasts and traveling and going to retreats and facilitating in different countries, even just traveling has our body in that kind of sympathetic nervous system state, being on time, being around a lot of people, taking in the energy of others. So how can we have this daily practice where we're not just for 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes before bed, but throughout the day, observe the current state that we're coming from. So when I meet another person, I'm meeting them where they are at, and I cannot change the energy of someone else. I can't say, hey, change your energy or do this or do that. I am 50% of this relationship with you, Bryce. I can be accountable for my 50%. And when I am in that place within me, that supports you to be in that place within you. And now we have 2 more calmer nerve operating systems. But if you're coming in really hot and rah, 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 and Stu, you didn't do this, or you said you were going to do that, my nervous system wants to go, oh, shit, I did something wrong. This winds me all the way back to my 5-year-old self of not passing a test and not being enough, like the experiment that you were just sharing. If I'm told, hey, that was wrong, or you didn't do that right, or your score wasn't enough, how many of us are walking around every day from a place of just playing that game? Some days I feel enough, some days I don't feel enough. What was if we didn't play that game of polarity and duality anymore, and we've always been perfect? It's just the idea of perfection has us chasing it, where we've actually always just been it. It's like a Don Miguel Ruiz perspective from the Four Agreements of everybody born has always been perfect. But this pursuit of happiness has us chasing happiness rather than just being happy.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really important to me, is to have 30, 40 minutes to myself in the morning when I wake up, before checking my phone, before checking emails, social media, text messages, before welcoming 100 other things and energies into my life. How can I just be with self? How can I slow down, check in with my sensory, nervous system, musculoskeletal system, and really listen, really tune in to see what my body needs, and help to actually align it with gravity before the day begins? And then how does that impact our relationships, with work, with partners, with self? And so that's really where I'm loving sharing this practice, more like hand-to-hand, face-to-face with my family and closest friends in this moment, as I'm writing and curating scripts to then support them with guided audios for after our sessions. So really using this educational platform to teach others how to do this for themselves. Mm-hmm. I cannot heal anybody, but I can share a platform and a practice where people learn how to heal self. And that's partly why we're here.
It's beautiful, truly. And I think it's a great way to calm the world's distractions, to truly listen to what's going on with the body. The difficulty is the fear. If I don't check that text, will it be too late? If I don't grab the coffee, am I missing out on the opportunity or the call or answering that email? There's people relying on me. I have to be at said place at said time. My child needs this. The dogs need this. My partner needs this. What are your suggestions for people that they've got a pretty full plate? Mm-hmm. They're woken up by the baby crying. They're already kind of irritated because they don't have personal time carved out for themselves. Because I've had that conversation with people like, hey, let's carve out 30 to 40 minutes, in these windows of the day. And you get that pushback, right? Like, there's just not time with some people have 2, 3, 4, 5 kids. They might, especially in expensive California, you're going to have your main job, your side hustle. You might have real estate or other things that are going on to try to keep yourself afloat. What are your thoughts on that? Because I don't want us to have a conversation today that's just carving out this 45-minute morning routine, 45-minute evening routine, just have a 2-hour window to go train or surf during the day. And then people are like, yeah, that's just not possible for my life. And I'm sure, like you mentioned, working professionals, high-level entrepreneurs. And I want to lead this towards balance isn't this way is more than this. It's how do we use self-work, personal listening, movement, mindset, ancestral and primal living to harmonize that into our life? Can we do walking meetings and phone calls? Can we stretch and move while playing with our kids? What are your thoughts on this as to how to integrate some of these things for people whose plates are not just full, but like overflowing, where their nervous systems inevitably are in fight or flight, but they can find calm in the midst of participation?
Yeah. I love how you're stemming and asking that question from the roots of like, I can observe listening to this conversation. And as you said, like, oh, well, if you have this time and you have a 30-hour workday, maybe I can take care of myself a little bit more. There's this piece where you've mentioned like leading from fear, where the equal and opposite feels like leading from love, right? So when I'm working with someone and they say, oh, I just don't have time for that. Like, I feel that when they say, I don't have time to care for myself because of everything else outside of me, what a place to be operating from. And I feel that, and I want to support them in that space. I don't want to tell them their perspective is right or wrong or good or bad. There's a story there. There's a story we're telling ourselves in a relationship with self. So what I'd like to offer is, let's use an example of we're in this athletic realm of maybe we're currently participating at the highest level. Maybe we've retired from that level, but still want to participate and play and keep in shape and keep healthy, physically, mentally, emotionally. When our body is holding tension, and we're rewinding it now from, let's say, musculoskeletal tension, but now we've understood the concept of how that's connected to our nervous system state and our sensory system awareness of our environment. Even just for giving ourselves 1 or 2 minutes to pause, slow down, and stop, we can actually shift our nervous system and state and then actually reflect back on where we were a few minutes ago. Sometimes we don't even realize what state we're operating from until we slow it down and pause. And when you've got kids screaming in the back seat that they're hungry and they want dinner or whatever it is, it's almost like a practice. When you're doing that with yourself, you're changing your energy. If we're talking as a teacher or an educator or a parent, when you change your energy, the energy of your kids change too. When I lay down on the floor and do a practice, my hyperactive golden retriever just comes and lays down with me and is calm and still for 2 hours, where before he just wanted to play. And over time, he kind of did the floor practice with me. So when I step into, when I was teaching TK, I would have a class of 24 4-year-olds. And how do we bring some awareness around slowing down and breath? And to spend 25 to 50 minutes with a class of 4-year-olds who were just still and calm and breathing with one hand on their heart and one hand on their belly and loving being there in a place where they don't want to move. And so it becomes this part and practice where I can't say, hey, let me show you this, and by tomorrow everything's shifted. It takes days, weeks, months, and years to develop your own inner practice. And so when someone says to me that I don't have time to slow down and do this, I don't understand. Now within my life, I was that person that said I don't have time. I'd love a morning practice. I want to get up and I want to get to work and I want to do my job. I want to sleep as long as possible. I'm tired. I don't know how how I don't make time for that now, because it's actually gifted me more time. The thought of not having enough time is keeping me in that story and loop of not having enough time. So if I turn it around and I actually give myself that slowing down and connection with self first, and my body actually feels better, I'm not missing days of work because my immune system's stressed and depleted. I'm not missing, for example, surf sessions when the surf's firing because my body's tight and my upper trap is shouting at me. I'm literally preparing myself for, a podcast in a month's time where I want to be operating at my best, leading up into that with deep clarity and thought. So really, I want to turn that around and support someone where they're at and really listen and believe their story and say they don't have time for that. But then I'd like to guide them through a practice where they actually feel that state of calmness and wisdom that's always been within them, where this practice teaches us to get out of our own way, to come out of our controlling mind and story and actually come into the body and feel where the wisdom was always been within us. And that calm state was within us. And when I can guide someone through a 2-hour session in that way, there's the beauty and magic of this work. And I love is when someone stands up at the end of a practice and there's really no words in the English language to really explain how somebody feels in that moment. But it's a gentle reminder of the operating state that they can be operating their life from, their relationship with everyone in their life. from their partners to their kids, to their employees, to their bosses, and really with the relationship with self.
Mm-hmm. What I'm hearing here, Stu, is a lot of our world operates in the realm of extremes. You've got complete, just like shut down, rest and digest, freeze-ish. And then you've got over here this hustle bustle. If there's an extra minute, I'm going to fill it with something. I have to do more. I don't really, more is the answer to the problems. I don't want to be with myself. I can clean, I can do extra work, I can make that phone call, and it's noisy. But somewhere in this middle ground is the ocean. It's that flow state, which is how I kind of describe your rhythm and your energy. And it can be a balance of both. But going back to the rewiring of the narrative, the thing that's holding most of us back is the story that we tell ourselves. If the story is, if I don't get this done, I'm not going to be able to provide for my wife and kids. If I can't provide for my wife and kids, they're going to leave me. Then I'm going to be alone. I have to surrender to the matrix. I have to figure out healthcare. I have to figure out the car insurance, the traffic. My job wants this from me. I want this from my life. It's part of the reason why so many people are giving the middle finger to corporate America and saying, hey, I'm just going to go be an entrepreneur. And they're trying to design their own life. That in and of itself comes with its own stresses, but it's coming because of the noise, because of the fear, because it's falling out of alignment with our true biological nature. But then credit card debt goes up. Then you want to practice the art of escapism on the weekend. So you're spending a ton of money on alcohol, experiences, and eating out. And then the Sunday scaries set in. You're like, whoa, I got to get back to work on Monday. I got to go make money to provide for this lifestyle. And then you're stuck. Then you're in the hamster wheel. You got bills to pay. You got people relying on you. Your job wants more. You're now giving and stuck in a loose form of slavery where you can't see that you can carve out time for yourself. You might be able to, but it doesn't fall into alignment of importance because you're like, I don't feel a reward. Right now, I'm going to sacrifice my health in pursuit of wealth. And then later, when I have time, I'll use my wealth to regain my health. Because our medical system's great, and I can just get that surgery, or I can, take the Ozempic to lose the weight. Now you can see the lenses that I would probably argue 90% of people live in. It saddens me, and I want to rewire that narrative. And almost like white it out and be like, let's start with a blank canvas. Here's a beautiful paintbrush. Let's just start over. But it's not that easy.
At about 27 years old, I just finished 5 or 6 ski seasons working in the French Alps, skiing hard every day, 6-7 hours every day, working at a bar in the evening to make money, to get accommodation. So I'm going from charging as fast as I can, ski guiding, having fun with my friends, skiing with the French locals and wanting to be just as good or better than them. And then on my feet for 8 to 10 hours doing shifts in a bar and going to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning and then repeating it for ski season, about 120 days. And then coming back to England for a little bit and then going out to New York. And I worked at this beautiful sports camp in upstate New York, where again, it's like 50 days, 7 weeks or so of 400 kids, 6, 7 a.m. meetings up till 10, 11 o'clock at night, 16-hour days, just coaching soccer, swimming, basketball courts, leading other coaches, working with hundreds of kids every day. And it was this go, go, go fun life. And I got to explore and travel and work and play outside, from the French mountains to the upstate New York Adirondack Mountains. And at 27 years old, being 6'6", my body was like, fuck you, dude. Fuck you. Stop screaming at me. My lower back, like L5, S1, herniated disc. Doctors were pointing at lidocaine injections, epidurals, anything at 27 years old. You're too young for surgery. I'm like, thank you. I don't want surgery. I don't even want that as a conversation. But here's some meds. Here's go to massage. Have you ever heard of acupuncture? Like, there was a couple people pointing in a few different directions. Mm-hmm. But my support system didn't know anything else. 30 years old, I didn't really get much better at 27, but at 30 years old, I'm graduating with my master's in arts and teaching, Pacific University up in Oregon. The energetics of my relationship was ending. So I was coming out of a relationship at that time, but kind of lost and didn't really know what was going on. And my partner was in a nursing school program. So we were just like ships passing in the night. And I was taken in for an X-ray and an MRI in the emergency room. And within like 12 hours, I was having back surgery. I didn't even know of another way. Just my whole environment, my friends, my family were like, yeah, go see the doctor. And coming from parents that really trust their doctors, this is a great surgeon, he'll look after you. And I'm already on morphine now. So I already felt like, all right, if there's no other option, and then the specialist is telling me this is the way, then this is the way. I was scheduled for a surgery May 2012. And in the hospital bed, I've got set up next to me a video link for my class graduating and walking with our masters in education, the people I've just spent the last 12 months with. And then the doctor comes in, and the moment my graduation ceremony is being conducted, I get whisked off into back surgery for hours. And I had a discectomy where they pulled away some of the herniated discs. I wake up for a brief moment and see this like beautiful blonde nurse looking over me with the white lights coming down, and I pass out again. I don't really remember anything. Next thing I know, I'm pulling things out of my arms and off my fingers so I could go to the bathroom. A nurse is saying, hey, why are you out of bed? You shouldn't be walking. And all I want to do was go home. I was scared. I didn't want to be there. I can't believe that I'd actually had or agreed to surgery. And so what I really wanted to do was have a practice from back for like my 27-year-old self, or my 25-year-old self, or my collegiate sports self, or my high school self, to slow down and listen to my body, to bring it in deeper balance so I can actually perform better. Like, what would our bodies operate like in the CrossFit arena if our deep pelvic floor and our roots and our hip flexors and glutes and external rotators are equally and oppositely supporting one another? We can move that all the way up and down the body, hamstrings, quads, outer thigh, inner thigh. So how can our body actually support and perform at the highest level? And also, how can this practice help support someone like my 77-year-old dad that just wants to enjoy retirement and walk and have more ease and flow in their body? So really like creating a program for myself 15 years ago that I didn't know existed. I don't think it did. And that's where I want to say a thank you to Carolyn for spending 30 years working slowly in the shadows, hand to hand, face to face with clients, and building this beautiful curated practice together where I haven't experienced anything like it. I spent thousands of dollars every month going to acupuncture, massage, men's groups, breath work, energy healing, yoga, Pilates. I was that one guy in Pilates class every week, trying a myriad of things. But the one thing that I wasn't doing was my self-practice, the glue that brought it all together. So now when my body's in better balance, that masseuse can get a little bit deeper and further, or things aren't as tight.
Yeah.
That acupuncturist can help me bring more balance and flow in energetic chi flow through my body because I have my own practice. Now, when I go to warm up at the gym and I've already done 20, 30 minutes before adding weights, I'm strengthening a skeletal system that's more in deeper balance and integrity at every major joint. Most recently, I've been teaching anatomy and physiology sections of yoga teacher training programs. So recently, a shout out to Trilogy Sanctuary down in La Jolla. I think it's a beautiful facility, beautiful practice and program that's curated by all of the teachers down there. There's like 10 guest teachers that come into their YTT programs. And they get to share like the 3 planes of the human body, how we operate on this sagittal plane where everything's kind of forwards and backwards. And how can we bring the frontal plane into play where everything's moving out to the side and back into the middle of the body. And then how we have rotation with a transverse plane of motion. So in yoga, we want to create, and Pilates, we want to create a program that's using all 3 planes of motion at every major joint. But we don't always learn that in our anatomy and physiology classes. So if we're just training something on one form, like deadlifts over and over again, now we're losing an opportunity for deeper integrity and ranges of motion if we're just working one of the planes and not all 3 in every workout. So it's really just coming back to the integrity of the whole being. If yours and I's physical, musculoskeletal, fascial integrity is in deeper depth, what does that look like in the way I operate during my day and my relationships and my communications and setting clear boundaries, not out of avoidance, but saying, hey, this really resonates with me. What do you think? How can I come across everyone and every interaction as an opportunity to learn more? Like I'm here coming on this podcast to learn from you and learn from all the people that you've had on your podcast. And I love that. I can't get enough of that. But equally and oppositely, I want to share and I want to support and I want to lead by sharing love and not operating out of fear.
Yeah. Pain isn't punishment. It's information. And that's what I'm gathering from the beautiful story that you shared, is that it allowed you to not necessarily push the sled harder, but rather understand that you've tried a myriad of modalities. They're all useful and helpful in their own way. You weren't quite there. What allowed you to take the metaphorical shovel to dig a little bit deeper and look at yourself, to take full ownership and responsibility, as opposed to playing the role of the victim, pointing towards everything else, blaming, sitting, lack of awareness. And then more importantly, which is probably what most people do, which is, okay, what are the things, how do I want my life to look? Okay, as long as I can sort of keep doing those things at about 60 to 70% effort, I can pop 500 to 800 milligrams of ibuprofen or Tylenol or whatever to mask the discomfort so I can go do those things, whether that's golf or pickleball or surfing. And that's what most people do. They just go, that's just the way it is. That's the way my body is. And they practice acceptance as opposed to trying these different things and then realizing I need to go this way.
It reminds me of a saying of, everybody wants to heal, but who's willing to change? When you mention pain, I think that was the point, to answer your question. I think that was the point where really Carolyn was that one person to help me look at it from an equal and opposite way.
Was that your healer or your teacher, or who is that?
Mentor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your mental coach.
Yeah. Mentor, kind of physical therapy meets nervous system regulation and deep pelvic floor structural integrity. Carolyn pays tribute to all of her mentors and plethora of a diversity of healing modalities that she's played with herself. She's been learning from doing this herself. The practice that I do and was led through with Carolyn was not she can't heal me, but my master's in this practice and program is how can I heal myself? So when Carolyn was...
Real quickly there though, I love that. because my stubborn ass, like you, tried all these different things and they sort of worked. And I never like blamed other people. I was like, okay, what am I doing where this isn't totally working the way I think it can? But most people go to coaches, trainers, mental performance coaches, or therapists, and they think, fix me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm broken. Glue me back together with the super glue and the duct tape. And what I'm curious, and I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but what I'm really curious about is for the consumer that's watching our conversation today, how do we get their mental to that place where it's me that needs to change, as opposed to you're the expert, fix me, I'm paying you the money. If I don't get the thing or I don't lose the weight, it's your fault.
Yeah. Thanks for adding that, because that's adding right where we're at, where we're at in this conversation, and where I was going was that piece of I was outsourcing my health to others. I was using my expenses. I felt grateful that I had some money at that time to like learn all those modalities. Like I learned so much from my masseuse and acupuncturist and energy healers and breath work and men's groups. I don't want to take any of those experiences away from anyone. Like, yes. And when I'm outsourcing my health for others to fix me, it's like learned helplessness. I am not willing to face self and look at what I can do for myself and where I'm getting in my own way. So this perspective on pain was when I was in so much pain in my back and sciatic nerve pain radiating down my right leg, and it's like someone had stabbed me in the right glute.
Mm-hmm.
God, that was frustrating. That was limiting. It was like debilitating. I couldn't play sports. The doctor's telling me I'll never ski again or play soccer again. Like, that stressed my system out even more. So now I'm holding on to more tension. Right? So the pain and just actually being in pain, and who wants to be in pain? We want to be out of pain. So I think our conditioned mind in this environment that we're in has us avoiding being in pain. So we take the ibuprofen, we push harder. If we look at our body as an athlete, if I just get deeper into my squat, that's going to bring that balance back to my integrity. If I just squeeze that a little bit harder, that might fix me. If we look at the body as an architect, we're looking at it like structural integrity, like a building, verticals, horizontals, diagonals, and how all the pieces are kind of like connected together. And we can also look at the body as a dancer, like an artist, and like it's about the full expression. So when I'm in gym settings and, the guy at the front desk, like, hey, what are you working out today? Part of me just wants to say, fingers and toes day, just for a joke, just to be stupid. But most of us in the gym are looking at the superficial muscles, the pecs, the rectus abdominals, like the top layer of the abs, the biceps, the deltoids, the things on the top. What happens if we could bring deeper balance and stability to the roots and all the deep underlying muscles, like the external rotators, deeper than the glutes, all the deep pelvic floor muscles that work in balance? The transversus abdominis, the lowest level of the 6 layers of the core, looks like an old woman's corset from like the 1800s. If you've never seen an image of the transversus abdominis, Google it and imagine that imbalance before the outer layer of your rectus abdominals. That point and that shift really was so profound for me when I was guided through these practices to actually be with my pain, to actually slow down and listen to those light, medium, and loud sensations within me. So no, I'm not operating from fear and avoidance and frustration and anger and sadness of being in pain and debilitated. I was actually supported and almost like held in that moment, held by someone else's safe nervous system to be there and go into my pain. And when we actually start to listen, and the body, it's like saying to the body, hey, I'm here for you now. I'm done with all that bullshit. And I'm actually going to pause and listen and sit with that discomfort of whether it's tingling, pins and needles, sharpness, dullness, aching. And I'm going to ask my body how it would feel to gently breathe it around that area. Maybe we don't go straight into the meat of it. But what happens if we start opening up that area just by focusing on it and bringing our attention deep within us, like we've got a tiny little flashlight, and we invite our breaths into that area to explore. Now we're bringing in blood flow. Now we're just using the gentleness of our own breath to slightly open up. How can we be softer and gentler with self? Bringing in white blood cells, oxygenated red blood cells. How can we bring that focus and attention to anywhere in our body, usually starting with the loudest sensation first, and then start bringing deeper structural stability and integrity to areas throughout every major joint. So it might not just be limited to the back and the pelvic floor. And then when we do that, our body quite quickly goes, oh, thank you. Finally, you're actually listening to me. You're actually here to support me now. We're coming out of the mind and the conditioned controlling mechanisms of our mind. Oh, I can't do this. I don't want to be in pain. And now we're actually diving in and letting the body lead the way. Most of us in this modern world, there's a lot of buzz around like the polyvagal theory or the vagus nerve theory. But that vagus nerve is about 80% of it is made up of the sensory network that communicates from your body to your brain. It's not the brain to the body. We need to move that brain out the way to actually listen to how our body's been communicating to us for so long.
That's an interesting thought right there. I really appreciate the picture that you painted. It sounds to me that pain seems to be our greatest teacher. And it also seems to be the catalyst for change.
It's like looking at something rather than avoiding it. I feel this visual a lot, like, no, I don't want to be in pain. But what if I'm just playing that game for years? How can I actually start to slow down and listen and actually look at it?
What's beautiful about that is we look at words like pain, fear, rejection, loss, and we're constantly in pursuit of happy and winning and euphoria and wonderful. It's almost like we should be in pursuit of pain, like play so hard and do things so well because you're in this season of a little bit of an upward slope, but this too shall pass. And when it does, and you're seeking that edge with so much childlike joy, you're going to have the most beautiful, painful, challenging experience with pain or loss or rejection. And that's how you upgrade your operating system as a human. But oftentimes we play up until, and when I say play, I mean work, I mean write, I mean paint, I mean create, service. We play kind of in this land of comfortable complacency, right? Between like 60 and 80%, because it's safe. It allows for consistency. Consistency is really highlighted and it's a big staple of our world. But then as a byproduct, we stay there. We stay at 60 to 80% until we get explorative in pursuit of, okay, what happens if I go to that next level? What happens if I try to do this instead of this? Oh, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always be what you've always been. I don't want to be 60, 80% anymore. I want to be 82%. So I have to do something different. But now that's this psychological challenge with the unknown. I haven't been here before. Now I have more fear than I did before. Now I don't have security. Now I don't have control. And I love the Ted Lasso. Be curious, not judgmental. We feel so much judgment from the world, but in reality, we're judging ourselves. I don't want to experience pain. Avoid pain at all costs because this is where I'm safe. But in staying safe, you play small.
Yeah, we can't really solve a problem from the same mindset that created it. And there's a beautiful theory, a set point theory, of, well, this is just how I am and this is how it's going to be. This is how my parents are, so this is how I'm going to be. Where one thing that we can have in common with our parents is the environment that we grew up in. The food that was on our plates might be, a shared meal. The energetics of sitting down, watching TV in the evening where we're already tired. So not all the time, but many times when I've worked with someone before and I actually guide someone into breath, which then becomes a form of like meditation, and they're being gentle with self, their nervous system is dropping into a bit more balance. They fall asleep because that's what their body needed. They actually slowed down and listened to their body, and they were exhausted.
It's so interesting you say that, because our mutual friend Q and I hosted a men's retreat about 2 or 3 weeks ago now. And we do this incredible breath work with a facilitator that's just, in my opinion, on a whole new level. His name's ALLSMITH. And I've had the experience before in following his guidance where I had visions and I had almost like a psychedelic experience. This last time, I fell asleep because, like you said, that's what my body needed. And it was an interesting evolution, because younger self, i.e. like a year ago, would have felt, man, did I not do it right? Did he facilitate it differently? Were the sounds and the breath work different? Like, I was looking for this thing, like with the flashlight, I want to find the diamond. Why did I not find it? What's wrong with me? Am I not good enough? Why did all these other people have this experience and I didn't? And newer, upgraded me over here was exactly what you just said. Wow, if I self-reflect on my actions of the last 3 months, it's been all gas and no brakes. That was the first time where all the worry seemingly melted like an ice cube. I felt presence, I felt space. And more importantly, I wasn't trying to get something. I was just trying to be somewhere. And then that led to this self-exploration moment of, hey, maybe the energy of my role here now is to create space, not necessarily to have to give away a diamond or create this narrative that is celebrated. And there's something to that guides you closer to what you described with those 4-year-olds when you were working with them, which is, it's peace. To me, peace is the most valuable thing on the planet.
Inner peace.
Inner peace.
I think that's the yearning. When you say that, it's like that's come up several times as you've been talking in this podcast of, isn't that what people are yearning for? Like, can people tune into that within self? Like, I just need a break. I do want to slow down. I want to find more inner peace within my life, within my partnership, within my parenting, within my occupation.
Yep.
But what are the tools to get there? And how can we combine and add certain things like breath work, meditation, coming out from the exterior world and coming in? We talk about mind-body connection. Like, I don't think we can disconnect the mind from the body. But when we really come out of the mind and we practice being present within, even if we're there for a few minutes in a day, like, celebrate that. And then when we practice, it might get to 5, 10, 15 minutes. I don't think we need to sit on the top of a mountain like a monk in Nepal for 10 to 20 hours a day and do that. But when you're being guided and held in a breathwork session a few weeks ago, even that, the current state of where you were feeling that day, or maybe the 1 or 2 days leading up to that, your nervous system, when it's in a place where it actually got to slow down, pause, and pass out, is kind of like exhaustive sleep. But within that too, when you're held in a space with others, you may have experienced that theta level frequency of sleep that's deeper than deep sleep. So just 10 or 15 minutes of slowing down and pausing could have felt better than like 4 or 5 hours of restorative sleep in the night. Or how do you slow down at the end of your day to get to begin your sleep in that state, rather than watching, an action adventure thing on a network where there's there's a lot of death and killing and shooting. And it reminds me of a story with last time my parents came to stay a few years ago, and my mom was going to bed. I'm like, hey, love you, mom. Good night. See you tomorrow. And she was on her iPad, and I was just curious, like, what content is she looking at before going to bed? And she was like, oh, I'm just reading about the war in Syria. I'm like, okay, well, I love you. Sweet dreams. And just kind of observing. I'm not telling her that's right or wrong or good or bad, but what energy are we surrounding ourselves with?
Mm-hmm.
And also, what energy are we giving out? If we bring it down to like laws of the universe, the energy cannot be created nor destroyed. Or like we've been talking today quite a bit of Isaac Newton's theory of laws of motion. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction,
Mm-hmm.
and how that shows up within our body systems. And if we're operating in this way, how can we pause and stop and actually look at another perspective and try and operate from looking at multiple perspectives?
We've talked a lot about energy. We've talked a lot about inner peace. In my opinion, two incredible things within the human experience that are so valuable. But they're not seen. They must be felt. In a world that wants to accumulate more stuff, more money, get the raise, get the promotion, I don't care how you feel. I care if you got it done. There's no asterisk in this life on that day when you didn't feel good, especially when we talk about the masculine versus the feminine. Find a way. Beautiful documentaries have been made about that. So much celebration. You look at Michael Jordan's flu game. Was it the flu game or the hangover game? I'm not sure. However, it's celebrated. And then if somebody modern day plays around with their minute allocation within a season to regulate themselves, the media rips them a new one for getting paid this much money, not stepping up to the plate. Our world doesn't celebrate inner peace. It celebrates action. And in a world that celebrates action, accumulation, and things that you can tangibly feel or see on a bank account or on an investment like a Bitcoin, I guess, because there is this cloud now. How do you create buy-in around that? Because people are like, no, if I just make the money, I'll be happy. Oh, if I just get the girl, I'll be happy. If I just take the vacation, I'll be happy. But new things just take its place. So for people that are maybe craving inner peace, but they don't really know it yet, how do you help guide that experience to help them know what they currently don't know they want?
Yeah, I feel like you were just pointing at things outside of me, but then we're talking about inner peace being inside. So even as we're talking about this and conceptually and cognitively connecting in this conversation, or almost like more mind to mind, but we're feeling it because you and I are here. Our nervous systems are connected, sitting here face to face, hand to hand. So there's a part of like cognitively understanding, like if parts of what we're talking about today is like, oh, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. But then we listen to the mind's fears of, but I can't do that. I don't have enough time for that in the story. There's a part of cognitively understanding it, and there's a part of actually feeling it within. So when I hope that we've all had those experiences where we've felt that inner peace, where we felt that calm and stillness within us, whether we've gone for a walk in the forest on our own and we find the oldest tree in the forest and we just lay down at the roots and close our eyes and take a breath. I don't know if many people, particularly inner city living, has had an opportunity to that, to explore that, or someone that was born and raised in a household where it was just chaos from day one because mum and dad's energetics have always been in, go, 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 do better, do more.
What I want to push back against, though, is I don't know if in modern day I agree with the phrase, this person doesn't have the opportunity to ... And I think of a story when Michael Jordan was chatting with Charles Barkley, and Charles Barkley pulled out some money and he went to hand it to a homeless person because the homeless person said, "Hey, do you have some spare change?" And Michael Jordan smacked Charles Barkley's hand down. He said, if he can say, "Do you have some loose change?" he can also say, "Welcome to McDonald's. How may I help you?" And I'm genuinely curious. Like when people say, "I don't have the time," I feel like we make the time for the things that we want and that we need. And that sounds mean, but to me, it's love. It's being authentically truthful with somebody of, no, you're just putting that as a priority over yourself. And that's going to work in this social construct in pursuit of capitalism until you get sick. And then all those things that previously mattered will come secondary to you. Mm-hmm. Why can't people see that?
There's a choice there, right? Like,
yes.
We can stay stuck. And I hope, I'm really hoping in a way, I think a self mantra I've been listening to within myself this last few years is what's something I can do for myself in this moment? If I'm in my head and I'm feeling a bit stressed about something or anxious about something coming up, I'm like, what's one small thing I can do for myself right now? It might be just get my feet on the floor and get out of bed and get out of my mind and stop thinking. It might be turn on the shower, or I feel like it's almost like a luxury here to be able to go for a barefoot walk on the beach and jump into the water, whatever the temperature. That resets my nervous system every time.
But you also make that choice. You make the choice to live in California. Mm-hmm. You make the choice to pay the taxes. You make the choice to position yourself to have that opportunity. Mm-hmm. It's not easy. Other people make the choice. Hey, I want to be in the Midwest. I want to be in the land of humidity. I want to be closer to family. It's still a choice. Mm-hmm. We have the option to change our environment if we're not happy where we're at. But we don't think outside of that. Inevitably, humans just do this thing of like, that's just the way it is. And it's exactly what we've reiterated on often, which is it's the story that we tell ourselves. And I say this with so much passion and bravado because I want to love and I want to see people maximizing their human potential towards peak expression, but more importantly, towards inner peace. And they can do it. And I think they can do it by absorbing tools like our conversation today.
Yeah, man. I look at my thumb and I think of the rings on a tree. I look at my palms and I think of the veins or the ripples in the leaves of that tree. And like that connection to nature, like when we get that opportunity to be in nature, it gives us that opportunity to find that balance and calmness within self. But how can we find that place within us wherever we are? We could be at a terminal waiting for a flight and our flight's delayed and we're like, are we reacting out of fears and stress or being late or tired, whatever it is? Or are we slowing down and observing and pausing and coming back to our breath and finding that place of inner peace wherever we are? And again, it comes back to a practice. Mm-hmm. I'm someone at this stage of my life, in this season of my life, where yes, there can be expectations from others and felt things outside of me. But the hardest critic of myself has always been within me, has always been myself. The story of not being worthy, not being enough was a narrative that I've carried with me from childhood. And I don't want to sing that song anymore. I can change my song.
What's coming to mind here is you can't change what you can't feel. Cognitively, we might have certain things, especially as men. I feel like men are really in their head and women do a great job being in their body. And it's creating this synergy between the two, which easy to talk about, really hard to do, even harder to feel. How are people able to build a better connection with feeling aside from pain?
I don't really know the best gateway to be with how we actually feel within our sensory, nervous, and musculoskeletal system than to slow down and listen. A wise elder once told me, shared with me, if you truly want to see, Close your eyes. And when we slow down and pause, we might even be able to tune into our inner workings and our heartbeat in this moment. You might find your pulse by using your fingers on your radial or carotid artery or putting your hand on your heart. But when we slow down and pause, we can actually feel and tune into the inner workings. There's a beautiful sensory practice, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Like looking around in your environment to really promote safety and connection to where you are in this moment. Like look at 5 things that you can see. Tune into 4 things you can hear. Notice 3 things that you can touch, different textures. Maybe you're already in contact with. Maybe 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. And even in just a few minutes practice, being aware and tuning into your senses, and then coming into your breath and asking your body how it would like to breathe in, and coming back to breath. We can actually even envisage or imagine the air coming in through our nostrils, up through the sinuses, down the windpipe, into both lungs, and feel the openness and expansiveness of the lungs as the diaphragm moves down towards your pelvis. And then as you breathe out, the diaphragm then moves back up to force air out of the lungs. And it is the equal and opposite direction. And then on the next inhale, instead of breathing the air up through your nose, bring the air straight back towards the back of your head. And you might notice you can actually breathing a little bit more now into that openness and expansiveness. And exhale, let it go without any force or pressure. And you breathe out further, almost like breathing out forever, where you pause at the bottom of the breath long enough for your body to tell you when it would like to take its next breath in. And then you breathe in forever, open and expand into the belly, the chest, the lungs, and pause at the top, take an extra sip in. And wait and pause there at the top of your breath long enough for your body to tell you when it's ready to take its next breath out. And all of a sudden we're getting to that cadence and rhythm within self, within us, where our mind is just focused on our breath, the open and expansiveness of every inhale, and the closing and contracting of every exhale. And we're calming our system down, slowing down to that place where we're taking in 5.5 breaths a minute, 5.5 liters of air a minute, and coming back to a little place of inner peace. And then observe and notice the clarity and focus you can come with what's coming up. You might have just been sitting in the car waiting to pick your kids up from school. You might be sitting outside or driving to an interview and something that's really important for you. But how can you pause and bring that calm state of balance within you, wherever you are?
What's also interesting about that is the perception is that you're doing nothing.
Doing so much.
Exactly. The reality is optimizing your energy, optimizing your air, working in, reflecting, pausing, letting go, being, presence. Who you show up as when the kids get in the car now, or when you do make it to that meeting or to that appointment, it's huge. It creates the law of attraction because Matthew McConaughey talked about this. The most confident man is not the muchísimo bravado, buffest dude in the room that is rah. It's typically the most comfortable in the environment. And the way you get most comfortable in your environment is by being most comfortable with self. I loved the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Can you touch on that just one more time? So if people are taking notes, they can add that to their toolbox.
Yeah, it was actually something I heard the first time I was introduced to that was a fellow I guess, Brit or Englishman, Jay Shetty, who has a popular
Oh, yeah.
podcast out there.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The 1 is usually taste, and 2, 1 and 2 is usually taste or smell, just because of the environment, or maybe you have that little taste of smoothie or something you had earlier. And the 3, 4, 5s could be exchangeable. 5 things you can touch or see or hear, depending on your environment. We're sitting here with headphones in, so I chose 3 things. I can hear you. I can even hear myself tapping the chair. The hearing one's interesting because we have that like introspective sense of sound that's close to us out and also further away. So you might start with sounds in the room, but then you might hear traffic or something in the distance. But just, yeah, tapping into our 5 main senses, and really one that can be deemed the 6th sense is that polyvagal theory of the sensory system within these main nerves within our body that connect like mind, heart, and belly, like our 3 brains in our system, but is really communicating our body back to our brain. So when we start feeling more comfortable in our environment, our nervous system can come into deeper balance, and our musculoskeletal system can actually let go of some tension. And so if I was training someone for the CrossFit Games, how would I bring them into that calmer, unwinding state first to help them unwind deeper tension in their hip flexors, glutes, musculoskeletal system? So there's an unwinding series towards balance first, before bringing deeper balance and integrity using the 3 planes of motion at every major joint. And so it's this beautifully curated and guided practice that I just feel so grateful that I felt like I was the student teacher. I like having this mentor for this has been a relationship over 5 years now. And this is the work that brought me out of the system of education, where I felt like I had to be an educator for 30 years, get paid an extra couple $1,000s on my salary schedule, build up my retirement funds, stay in the same school and community. But after 5 or 6 years, within me and me being Stuart, I'm like, all right, cool. That was so much fun. Loved working with those kids. Wish I could stay, but like, what's next? Not there needing to be more power, more fame, more money, more anything. Like, how can I support my community more? How can I support myself and my family more? I'm burned out. I'm hurting. My back's tight. I'm still trying to recover from back surgery 13 years ago. Like, I need to do more for myself. And so I went from a 100% kind of full-time job to a 60%. So I took a big decrease in salary to promote wellness and create space and time for me to slow down for a minute. And yeah, I was living more paycheck to paycheck for a year or 2.
How did that align with your purpose, right? Like, a part of you is a high-performing, driven male, provide and protect. And then you learned, I actually need to soften. How'd you learn to be okay with that? And what advice would you give to people that maybe don't know how to soften, or even better, unwilling to soften because they don't want it to be weaponized? They don't want to make less money.
Yeah.
They want to fit the mold. They want to be better every single year. They want the upward slope.
To soften, to be gentle, to listen, to tune into self. I feel like those skills have only strengthened me in my being. And as we say, like, being as a man. I feel like sharing a womb with my twin sister Louise, I feel like I've always had that balance, or more balance of that like feminine side than all of my friends, all of my guy friends. And if we are all an equal balance of masculine and feminine, it was just a beautiful place to be, like, not needing to push and win and destroy and break and fight. I've really never been a fighter. So I think, like, leading with love, how can I lead with love here? I was just hearing a beautiful story as I was walking in here with a friend who was at the grocery store with their 5-year-old, and they were buying some pumpkin pie. And they actually said, hey, be careful with that pumpkin pie. Hold it from the bottom. And the kid dumped it upside down. Pumpkin pie flipped on its head. And in that moment, that parent can, can observe self. They could choose. They could be reactive, like, hey, I just told you not to do that. Or they can observe and pause for a minute and say, that's a 5-year-old. That was probably expected. Maybe they've never seen an upside down pie before, and there's a teachable moment there. At my old school out in Scripps Ranch, there'll be kids climbing a fence. I didn't tell them to. I didn't instruct them to. I'm busy doing that or talking to somebody over here, and I turn around, there's a kid up a fence. One teacher can look at that and say, hey, no, get down. And that's it. The kid gets down. My kind of approach to that would be, whoa, dude, you're a good climber. Can you safely down climb? Because down climbing is harder than going up. Like, can you reverse that pattern and move one limb at a time? Find your footing, down climb safely. Like, you can climb this fence. You can. But I just ask you to do it after school with your parents here rather than in school time, because there's liability things going on in the system here. And if the principal sees me telling you it's okay to climb a fence, I feel like I'm going to be in trouble. And I don't want to be in trouble. I was in trouble a lot as a kid.
It's
so perspective.
Yeah,
and energy. And
I'm trying to find the words for that, but literally what that is it's responding, not reacting.
Observing, yeah.
And you're trying to also be in their head a little bit.
I am them. I'm that same kid.
Yeah.
I am them. I am you.
Yeah.
I didn't say no during that whole reinforcement. There was a teachable lesson, and I also taught the why. Why should we hold the pumpkin pie from underneath? Why do we want to keep it this way up?
Mm-hmm. What's that, Simon Sinek? If you know the why, you can do anyhow.
Mm-hmm. Or we can eat upside down pie later, but
like that.
Yeah, there's just a different way, like a different operating system. I felt like I left a school day within my nervous system a lot calmer than some other teachers who were very exhausted. I want to create this program to support them.
Love that.
I want to create this program to have people start this earlier, to bring, this is like missing curriculum. This isn't part of the, physical education and health science curriculum. Like, to choose to add breathwork into class, or to choose to learn how to teach yoga to students at 5 years old. That was my choice. I wasn't told to teach that. Mm-hmm. I was told to teach how to run faster and jump higher and win.
The measurables.
Yeah.
What's interesting is what's coming to mind for me is I want to be like, Stu, you should write a curriculum, and then you can take that curriculum and you can go start your own school system or your own thing. And it reminds me of the story of the Mexican fisherman. Have you heard that?
Please share.
So there's this Mexican fisherman, and he goes out and he fishes every morning for 2 hours. He catches enough fish, brings it back to his family, maybe gets a nap or some time with his kids or some teaching moments while they're kind of organizing the household. Then in the evening, they start a fire, they cook the fish, they might dance around the fire with the fish and have some wine. He gets some quality time with his kids, puts them down, spends time with his wife, has sex with his wife, goes to sleep, wakes up, and repeats. And one day he was out there, and this businessman was on vacation. And he goes, hey, man, what do you do? And he was like, oh, I come out here, I fish, and then I get time with my family the rest of the day. And he's like, oh, you only do that for 2 hours? If you do that for 4, you can catch more fish, and you can sell it to the town. He's like, okay, and then what? He's like, if you do it for 6 hours, you can also sell it to the town over. And he goes, okay, then what? And he goes, well, then you can afford to hire another fisherman, and you can sell it to the next town over. And he's like, okay, and then what? Well, then you can make enough money, you could buy a boat, and you could start selling all over the region. He goes, okay, and then what? Well, then you can create this huge company, get systems in order, have shipping containers, put all the fish on ice, and now you can service the entire world. He goes, okay, and then what? Well, and then you can, fish 2 hours a day, go back home and spend time with your family and dance around the fire, have wine and fish in the evening, put your kids down with bedtime stories, have sex with your wife and go to sleep, and then do it all over again. He goes, but I'm doing that now. And it's an interesting ideology. I even just noticed, right? I caught myself being like, whoa, you just shared this incredible skill, let's scale that skill and put it into the business realm. And like, we can unlock this beauty of Stu. And I'm like, I don't know that I've sat across from somebody in probably our last 50 to 100 episodes where I felt this level of nervous system calm. Mm. And I feel like I taste it every now and then, especially in contrast therapy with sauna and ice, but also like reverting back to, I don't have enough time. I want to do more. I want to scale. I go. And then just last night, I'm sitting on the couch. We're watching Luka and the Lakers. And one of our dogs is cuddling with my wife. And he just goes, and my wife goes, he really loves me. He's like really putting his weight on me. And he's like just so sleepy right now and feels so safe within this container that we've created. And you just pause and think about that. It's like, we could have a bigger house. We could have more clients. We could do all the things. And then what? Mm-hmm. And instead of, fortunately, I noticed that last night and I was like, whoa, this is beautiful. But in the lead up to that retreat and having that experience with the breath work, I was winning in life and losing at home. And when I say losing at home, I mean not noticing those moments, not holding or creating space for those moments. That is the inner peace. How do we create that as the goal?
That story of the dog taking the exhale, the parasympathetic calm and exhale, is that your dog feels safe and can relax and can close its eyes. And it's in probably physical touch and connection with your partner, maybe you too. And that's where that one nervous system can calm another. Like a newborn baby doesn't know how to self-regulate its nervous system at some point, so we go in and we calm it. And then at some point we let the baby cry a little bit longer, which is dysregulating for the parent's nervous system, particularly the moms. They just want to like nurture their child, but also knowing at a certain age where we let them cry a little bit longer, they're learning how to self-regulate. But not all of us were given those tools at a younger life to like hold and now co-regulate. So your dog's nervous system calms and you felt it, and that actually would have shifted yours and your partner's nervous system too, just in your dog. Mm-hmm. So the part is coming out of this work, like my goal 10, 15 years ago going into education was to be the best physical education teacher in America. That was my inner mantra and goal. Any colleagues that I've ever worked with never heard me say that. I've never really said it out loud. That's behind me now. That was my goal. Now to share this practice is to be this practice. Like if you feel a shift or an energy or how you're reflecting on us hand to hand, face to face in front of each other, and you're giving me a beautiful reflection on how you're feeling within yourself while you're in my presence, that's beautiful. Because it's almost like that's one of the biggest compliments I could ever receive, is when I say to somebody, hey, when I'm with you, I like how I feel. When I feel in that calm, grounded, present state within me, and you feel in that calm, grounded, safe, present state within you, then we are one. That's like a basic definition of namaste at the end of yoga. When you are in that place within you and I am in that place within me, we are one. We are connected. All energy is connected. How we are connected to nature, how we are connected to self and source being energy. And I think that's just something that we can all tune into. And we've all, as we say, hopefully felt and experienced. But if we're in that state, like you going into that retreat where you would go, and you're planning and you're prepping, and there's expectations from others and expectations you're putting on self, what is something you can do for yourself daily that is being soft and gentle and love? Like seeing you coming back to that visual of you 3 days ago, Sunday afternoon, that was one of the most beautiful afternoons on the Cardiff, Pipes, Encinitas coastline of this summer. any locals listening to this, the sunsets in the afternoons after that storm we had last week kind of cleared some energy up, and the clarity in the water, the energy of the waves. There was no wind. The surface tension was glassy. Everyone there was having a great time. And we're just so fortunate to be able to have that on our doorstep. Like, I've lived in Portland, Oregon. I've been in and out of New York City, London, upstate New York, the French Alps. My hometown was football fields, rugby fields, swimming pools. It wasn't near the coast. Like, I feel so grateful that I could choose, make choices, and design the life I wanted, but in a way where I had to let go. I had to take leaps of faith. I had to surrender. When I was leaving Portland, Oregon to come down to San Diego, my own mom was like, you have a beautiful home in Portland. You have a great job in an amazing school district, and the community love you there. Why would you ever leave? And in that moment, I'm like, oh, hey, Mom, I love you. Thanks for looking out for me. I know this is how you're showing your love, but my mom's almost projecting her fears of what she would do onto me.
Yeah.
And I want to recognize, like, my mom's always like had my back and cares for me, but it's coming out of that, like, her fears of what she would do if she was me. Where my dad's a little bit more like, I'm proud of you as far as the journey that you're on. Keep going, keep having fun, keep exploring. And so between my, like, you know, my mom wanting to protect me and just want me to be all right and be safe, and then my dad almost like living vicariously through how much fun I'm having, I feel so loved and supported by my parents more now than ever. But I had to change things within myself. I can't be upset or mad or frustrated at, like, my parents' conditioning and the things that they've experienced in their life. I can't change that. But I can change the energy in which I approach our conversations, our FaceTimes, when I go home and stay with them. I can be in this more balanced state within me, and that calms them. It actually does change them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so interesting how things change and evolve over time. My world's changed so much in the last year and change. And what's so interesting is I used to feel the need to prove, these are all the things that I'm doing. And somebody the other day was like, hey, how's it going? And I was like, simply serving and playing. And it sounds like a cryptic answer, but it's really not. To me, that encompasses it. It's service and it's play. And within play is learning. And I think it's an interesting bravado piece within America specifically, because I didn't feel this a ton when I lived in Europe. What do you do? And then there's like a measurable, and then it's like, I'm going to judge now based on what you do and give you a certain level of respect and then create a social hierarchy. But in reality, the piece is so cool. We don't take our jobs, and there's a famous song called Trailer Hitch. Like, we can't put all our stuff on the trailer hitch and take it with us to the grave. But those memories and those feelings and that inner peace not only comes with us, but it leaves a footprint going back to Sunday on the sand. That footprint was beautiful because it was connection, it was play, it was excited anticipation for us to meet today, and it was celebration of a mutual friend's birthday. Something about that is the 4-year-old with a regulated nervous system that's simply breathing and excited and not angry.
I would offer that how you felt in that state at the beach with your friends and the ocean still carries into your nervous system now.
For sure.
You know, at a few meditation classes recently, going to one of my friend's classes, he shared the same story a couple of times, so it kind of stuck with me. And he shared a story about 2 monks out in the forest and the rivers and the mountains. And they were on a few days like expedition. There was an elder and a younger. And there was some life lessons being learned along the way. And all of a sudden the skies opened and torrential downpour came and the rivers were overflowing. And they were coming across this river where there was a woman waiting on the bank, and she really needed to cross the river to get home. And the elder monk went over and offered help and carried the lady on her back across the river, set her down on the bank on the other side. And then the monks continued on their journey, remembering whether it was a few hours walk back to their monastery or a few days more walking. And on the way back, the elder could feel the energetics of the younger monk, the apprentice. And right before they got to the gates of the monastery, the younger monk had to share something. He was like, we've shared an oath and a vow, like never to make contact with a woman. And I can't believe that you touched her and you picked her up and you carried her across the river. He was mad. He was frustrated. He's been holding this for a really long time. Just had to say something to his elder. And the elder monk turned back and looked at him and said, I placed that lady down on the bank of the river 2 hours ago, 2 days ago, whatever it was. And you've been carrying her this whole way. And in that story of like the amount of things that we carry for days, for weeks, for months, for years, that communication with, that argument with fill in the blank, how that carries on within our day and within our nervous system. How can we let go? Maybe it's not in the fact of like forgiving someone else. It's like, how can we forgive ourselves for carrying that for so long? How can we be gentle and loving with self? I feel like the more I love on myself, the more love I have to give others. I feel like my love becomes endless. It's like not depleted and it's not running out. If I look after myself, I have so much for myself and so much for everyone I come into contact with every day. And at the end of the day, I'm reflecting back on like how much joy came into my world and into my life that day, whether it's just catching a glimpse of the sky and the sunset. And so really I feel like it comes back to being the thing that we want to be. Like you want to be one of the best athletes of your age and age group. It's like, how can we be that elite performer in all aspects of our life, where if I'm working out with you, I'm actually breaking muscle fibers down and active cross bridges and actin and myosin filaments, and I'm actually causing harm to my system. But when I pause, rest, heal, and recover, that's where everything heals and we actually strengthen during the rest period. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, just that beautiful play of equal and opposites, looking at different multiple perspectives, coming out of the story of, well, this is just the way I am. I think that's just opened up my lens to a whole new world. And I'm so happy to be here today. I'm really excited for whatever lays ahead.
Special conversation, man. Stu, where can people find you?
A good place to start is a website, balancedbodywisdom.com. Instagram, not so active. Love to build a team that can take care of that because I just love being like hand to hand, face to face with people and less time. I still think that inner child of, I don't want to sit in front of a screen and be still. I want to be out and moving. I'm sharing this practice. I'm living here locally around Encinitas, like North County, San Diego, and sharing this practice. I do have some clients where I can share this practice on Zoom, FaceTime. So I'm working with a gentleman in New York right now. And really hand-to-hand, face-to-face while I'm writing and curating the scripts. So then I'm developing an online program where you can do it yourself. And the audios will also support the people I'm working with hand-to-hand too. So yeah, website through the email address, which is all connected to that website. I offer free like 30-minute conversations just to see, people have questions or trying to meet them where they're at in their life to support them moving forward. But yeah, schedule a 30-minute consultation and we'll have a chat and see how I can support people from there.
Namaste, my man.
Namaste.
What a beautiful conversation. You've got me jaw dropped. Normally I have so much to say, but I feel like you tied up everything in that story there at the end about the two monks. So thank you so much for your authenticity, your storytelling, your wisdom, and your inner peace.
Thank you.
Guys, if you enjoyed my conversation with Stuart Champion, please rate, review, subscribe, and as always, share with your friends. Stay on the hunt for who you've not yet become. Till next time.